Welcome to Alabama Gristmill. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Alabama Gristmill. I am one of the hosts, Mike Causey, and my co-host, Donna. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing? Well, you already told us how you were doing, didn't you? You sound a little congested, though, today. I was that way the other day.
But we'll get through it. We get through it. It's worth it. It makes it, like you always say, it makes the flowers
right.
bloom.
That's part of it.
April showers bring May flowers.
Yeah, and the showers bring flowers, and the storms bring flowers, and anyway, that we have to have the bad to get the good. I guess that's what it amounts to. Well,
our story today takes place in Montgomery, Alabama, and we kind of take a pretty deep dive in the history of the Sayre
Street School is what.
Sayre Street School in Montgomery.
What's neat about this, it kind of shows how all the families were kind of related.
Well, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
All the families being related?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, there's not many people there back in those days, so they married close neighbors because they didn't go across the country, wasn't going across the country and finding wives.
So they're close neighbors.
They're close neighbors,
right.
And then they...
not families marrying families.
No, not married within the family. No, I'm sorry.
It's like everybody's related. I'm like, well...
if you go back far enough, it probably is. We're all related to Adam and Eve. You think about that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we'll go back that far, but it's...
If we say that, everybody's related.
I just want to kind of clarify that.
Yeah. But it is interesting. It's an interesting aspect of the area.
And the school is located right downtown, is that correct?
Right. It's not a school anymore, but the thing about this school, it was connected with education even before this area, that spot was connected with education.
A lot of history.
Oh, yeah, a lot of history.
Well, before we go into that, we always mentioned to help support the podcast and the website and everything we do. We do have a program where you can do that by becoming a patron of the Alabama Gristmill, Alabama Pioneers. And you can find that information out in the different levels and the rewards and the benefits that you get from becoming a patron of the site while also helping us out. You can find that out on alabamapioneers.com. There's a button, Become a Patron, and it kind of goes through all the details of that. And it really does help keep this going and keep this history alive.
Another thing too, that when you become a patron, it makes us feel better about what we're doing. It's kind of like saying, "Hey, we like what you're doing." So thanks a lot. It gives us a vote of confidence. We go on, keep on digging for these stories.
And that's true. If you can't even you're not in a position to do something financially or with money. Just any type of communication, comments. That's what we're really wanting to hear.
Right.
And let everybody kind of talk and share their history. And the easiest way right now, if we find to do that, is via the Facebook page, or you can comment on the articles on our website as well. And of course, if you just send us an email at info@alabamapioneers.com. Those are the different ways, the best way to get in touch with us.
Exactly.
We'll go ahead and get into the story now that we got all that out of the way, and tell us a little bit about the long history of the Sayre School in Montgomery, Alabama.
All righty. I certainly will. Tell you a little bit about the beginning history. The present building, there is an old building standing now, but it originally housed Sayre Street School, and it only dates back to 1891. But that site, like I said, located at the corner of Sayre and Mildred Streets in Montgomery, Alabama, has been connected with education since before the Civil War. It was also connected to the famous writer F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife, Zelda, whose maiden name was Sayre. So you can see how there is a connection. I'll explain it a little bit further down. It's kind of complicated. Before the war between the states, though, it was a private boys' school named the Franklin Academy, and it was originally located on the site of the Sayre Street School site. In 1863, the Franklin Academy, though, was advertised for sale. It appears that it may have been purchased and named Cox College by Dr. S.K. Cox of Montgomery. Dr. Cox was a Protestant Methodist minister of Montgomery, and he was well known to have been a president of a female college in Montgomery. A teacher named Mrs. Pollock, who later made famous Pollock and Stevens Institute of Birmingham, was also associated with Montgomery College. But sometime after the Civil War, Dr. Cox left and moved to Christiansburg, Virginia, where he again associated with a college. And he died some years later in Baltimore, so he was not involved in Alabama anymore. Chilton College was an institution for the education of girls and young women. It was established in Montgomery in 1866 by Miss Lavinia T. Bradford Chilton, and it was located on Felder Avenue at the site that later became the residence of Honorable S. Hubert Dent, Jr., but it evidently grew out of its site, and on July 6, 1872, Mrs. Lavinia Bradford Chilton purchased the building formerly occupied by Cox College, and she moved in and opened the Chilton School, and it became a private school for girls on that property. So first it was a Franklin Academy, a school for boys, and it turned into a school for girls. The Sayre Street Grammar School was named after William Parrish Chilton, and I'll explain how the Chiltons got into it. And this is kind of complicated, so you have to kind of follow me here, and because it shows the relationship between F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife as well. Elvira Frances, Musadora, and Mary Catherine were sisters of Senator John Tyler Morgan, and William Parrish Chilton came from Tennessee. First married Elvira's elder sister, Mary Catherine, and when she died in 1845, he married the younger sister, Elvira Frances, which was kind of common back then. That happened frequently, and she was also called Ella. Elvira was. Musadora married Daniel Sayre, the grandfather of Zelda, Sayre, Fitzgerald. So that's who the three sisters were married to. William Parrish Chilton, twice. Two sisters were married to him, and Musadora, their other sister, was married to Daniel Sayre. And so you can see the relationship. They were cousins with Zelda Sayre Fitzgerald down the line. Thomas George Chilton, the son of William Parrish Chilton, and his wife, Mary Catherine, married Lavinia T. Bradford. And you remember her name as the one who ran the school. He died May 16, 1860, leaving her a widow. And the Chiltons were cousins of the Sayres, as we showed. And like the Sayres, they were a distinguished family. But as often happened, a lot of times, they had insufficient funds. So she founded the school to find employment after her husband died. She had no source of income. The school was named after William Parrish Chilton, her father-in-law, and the cousin of the Sayres. After 10 years of successful work, though, her health began to fall, and she passed away in October 1881, leaving her daughter, Margaret Lavinia Chilton, as her only heir. Margaret was single, over 21, and at that time she resided in Mansfield, Louisiana, so she had the property, but she was far away and not really in a situation able to run the school. So the school by this age had been renamed Montgomery Female College. The city council, short on funds and unable to construct new buildings for schools in the late 70s, had been renting Mrs. Chilton's property for classrooms. And so when the improving economy of the 1880s came around, the financial assets of the city began to grow as well. And in 1882, the school decided to purchase the lot, the building, and all shares in the newly incorporated Montgomery Female College. The price for the structure, stocks, and a 270 by 220 foot lot was only $6,000. But that was a lot of money for the time. In 1885, a large building was constructed behind the Capitol on Union Street, which housed the Boys' High School and the Capitol Hill Grammar School. On June 24, 1885, the school committee recommended that the upper floor of the children's school, designated Girls' High School, be renovated by placing petitions in the chapel to provide more classrooms. By this time, though, the city was also renting a structure adjacent to Chilton School, and it utilized the frame building as the Sayre Street Grammar School. The committee's report on its condition was that it was safe. It was the best that could be said of it. Every room needed repairs, and only 3 of the 10 were large enough, so it was not really a good facility at that time from all the years it had been in existence. In 1888, the council purchased a 136-foot lot south of Children's School for $4,000. The price indicates that a building was on it, and presumably it was the 10-foot frame structure, and they hired another teacher. But frequent repairs still had to be made to the old structure. It was really beginning to show its age. And in 1890, they sold the lot with the old frame schoolhouse and constructed a modern structure on the corner of Sayre and Mildred Streets. It's the one you see now. And in 1891, a new building was approved, and the new school served grades 1, 5, and the girls' high school 6 through 8. At the time of its construction, Sayre Street School was located in a prominent middle-class neighborhood, and it educated students from the area west of Union Street. It was only 4 blocks from the downtown business district at the time. The Sayre Street School occupied a large corner lot close to the street. The old building had been marked by a marble slab inscribed Chilton College. And to commemorate its existence and also the educational work of Mrs. Chilton, who kind of ran it for a long, long time, in 1909, the slab was formally placed on the base and near the northeast corner of the present Sayre Street School building with impressive exercises by Peter Forney, chapter Daughters of the American Revolution. As part of the exercises, the name was changed at the time from Sayre Street School to Chilton School. Sayre Street Grammar School, though, at its closing in 1976, was integrated and served grades 1 through 6. Its demise came about because of the shifting population and laws regarding integration. The school was sold to private investors somewhere before 1982, and now it's no longer a school. It's used as office space. But that's kind of a long history of one little corner in downtown Montgomery. You know, when you're driving by these places downtown, like we did on the story of Millie's Street, you know, you don't know what went on there. You can drive by and kind of glance over and say, hey, you know, that's kind of a neat building, but it's got a history even further back than that. When you talk about it going back toward the Civil War, Montgomery has a lot of places like that.
I had no idea they went back that far. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just before the Civil War even. And it was tied to so many different families and such a strong history. And Montgomery had a strong history in education. Oh,
it did. Education and all, civil rights, everything.
Well, it was such a cosmopolitan city. I mean, everything from, we had a story about the first heart transplant there.
Right.
And then we had, the first.
Not the first heart transplant.
Not first heart transplant, but first open heart surgery.
Oh yeah. I think we had a story about that. I'm not sure.
It was the first open heart surgery, and then also the first electric train car system.
And all the civil rights history we have with it. And it was White House of the Confederacy, the first White House of the Confederacy there. You know, we could go on and on and on about little areas in Montgomery. They're doing a lot to preserve that too, thank goodness, because they're aware of it. So whenever you go down there and do research at the archives and all that, go visit around through town some. You'll see a lot of historic markers, maybe on a little corner here and a little corner there of something you didn't know about.
And now you know about the one at Sayre Street.
Right. You know about the one on Sayre Street, how it's tied up to so many families and so much history of education.
Thanks for taking us down to that, giving us that history that we're about.
Journey down to Montgomery.
Journey down to Montgomery and our little story about the deep history of the Sayre Street School. And we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. This is Alabama Gristmill. And
talk to you later.
We'll talk to you later on. Check in with us next time.
Bye-bye.
Joe dancing round on his toes, throws away his crutch and hollers, hey, let her go, oh, honey, hey.